Okay, this is going to be video 3 of the Attributed Title Blocks video series for the Attributed Title Blocks project in the Unit 1 folder of the 2419 or Intermediate CAD class. So I've already made the layouts. I've set up the border. In the last video, I drew the title block geometry. What we're going to do now is actually insert the attributes. So I'm going to slide this over here so you can see what we're doing. I've gone up through this step. Now what I'm going to do is add the attribute tags to the mechanical title block. So I'm just going to follow exactly what it says here. When I make an attribute, it's going to ask me for a tag. It's going to ask me for a prompt. I'll enter this. It'll ask me for a default. And as far as modes go, if there are any other mode options, it'll list what I need to do here, the text height, and then justify. MC is middle center, by the way. So I do want to point out a couple of things. So when you see right here under default, when it says insert save date and insert author field, those are in italics because it's actually telling you to insert the save date. Don't type the words insert save date. Actually insert the save date, and I'll show you how to do that in this video. Another thing is the course number. It says in here 2419 question mark question mark question mark with some asterisks. If you want to look down here, you can see what it's saying to do is supply your section number. So if it's let's say if your section number is 12345, you would type in DFTG 2419 colon 12345 instead of the question marks. Do not type in the question marks on this part right here. Alright, I'm going to move this over to the side and I'll get started on the actual drawing. So let's get this centered here. To get to the attribute definitions, we need to click on the Insert tab, and it's this guy right here, Define Attributes. It looks like a little luggage tag. So Define Attributes. You can also type in ATTDEF if you prefer to type. And I'm just going to follow along what this little table over here says. So for the tag, I'll put it all in caps and I'll say drawing name. You can't have a space in your tag. It's no biggie if you put it, it'll just pop up and say you can't have a space, and you'll just need to go in and delete that space. So if you want to put an underscore, no space, a little star there, or whatever it is that you need, just know that you can't have a space there. So for the prompt, type in drawing name. Default, we can just type in drawing name. What's nice about filling in a default here is even though drawing name will never be the text that you'll actually type in, at least as you're inserting that attributed title block, you can see what's supposed to go in that field. Under mode, nothing should be checked, and the first time that you do an attribute in a drawing, this guy right here is checked, lock position, so uncheck that. We don't want to lock the position. That's pretty important. So just on this one, make sure that there are no modes selected, and then we're going to go with middle center as our justification. We're going to use MEC Text NA, which is our current text style. And the text height right here, it says to set it at 0.25. So I'll say OK. I've filled out everything I need right here. I just have to place it down. Since we chose middle center, even though it doesn't look like it's about to do middle center, I still need to click where I need it, right in the middle of this cell right here. So I'm going to do the shift right click mid between 2 points, and I'll make it between here and here. So you see what happened. It put it right in the mid between those 2 points, and I have an extra little grip in the middle center of that text. Alright, I've done the first attribute. I'm just going to keep repeating these steps. So if you press enter, it repeats the last command. So that's what I'm going to do. Or you could come up here and click on Define Attributes. Press enter here, and I'm going to type in scale. Default, it doesn't have a default in here, but I like to do like question mark equals question mark or colon question mark. I like to fill in a default. So as far as mode, it says to check the one that says verify. The text height, it says it's 0.125. Say OK right here, and you just are going to kind of visually place this in here. Don't snap it onto that line. Make sure no O snaps come up. We don't want that text right on that line. Just right around here is good. We're going to repeat that. The next one is date. And this is where we need to insert the save date field. So instead of typing something right here, I'm going to come over here and insert field. This lists all the different kinds of fields that we have. I'm going to narrow it down so we're just looking at the date and time fields. Now there's 4 different things that you can do here. I can select the create date, And create date will have today's date, the day I created it, and it will never change the date after that. If I choose the date option, every time you open that drawing, it will put in that day's date at that moment. Plot date will only update the date on right when you plot, so right as you send it to the printer, it'll update. If you open it up 20 times in the last month and you didn't plot, it'll still have that last date that you plotted or created that drawing. Save date is what we want you guys to do. So I want you to select the save date option, and then you choose your date format. It really is better to choose the shorter one. To choose something like September 20th, 2014 is it gets too long for that box, especially if you're in the fall where you've got, you know, September, October, November, December. It's all really long months. You really don't want that because it'll just be too squished in there. So I choose this guy right here. I'll say OK. And you can see that it's a field. When it's grayed in like that, that means it's a field. If you ever see dashes instead of the date, that just means I haven't saved the date, or I haven't saved this drawing yet. And that's fine. Just know, leave the dashes there. Just know you're going to have to go back in and save that drawing. Since I've already saved this drawing today, it's putting in today's date. And let's see, 0.125 is the default left. It all looks good. And preset is what it says to check right here. So preset, I'll say OK. And I want to line this up just below this. I really don't have anything to snap to, so I'm just doing this visually. I'll just put the date right there. I'll pan over so that I've got drawn by. Repeat that at def, and we're going to put in drawn by. And here we need to insert the author field. So I'm going to pull this down. Author is under document, and it's this guy right here. We're going to choose the uppercase option. So when you set yourself as the author, you could be typing in lowercase, and it'll force it all to be uppercase when it's in the block. So I'll say OK. That's what I was talking about just a minute ago. When you have dashes in there, it's totally cool that you've got dashes. I just haven't set myself as the author of this drawing yet. So I'll just leave it like it is, preset 0.125. This is all looking good. And you're just going to put the drawn by field right in here. The next one that I need to do is company. Actually, I can't type today. And for company name, we're going to type in Austin Community College. Leave it at preset. We're going to make the text a little bit bigger, 0.2. And I'll say, I'm actually going to make this, oh yeah, it says to do it too. Middle center, just like we did on that first one. Shift right click, mid between 2 points. I want it at the middle between this and this. Looks good. We've got 2 more to do. Oops. I cannot type today. You're going to type in whatever your section number is. I'm just putting that in there for the sake of this video. Everything looks good. Left, preset 0.20. And I'm just going to put it in here. I would recommend putting section over there. We don't want to do middle center just because it might end up spilling out by the time it fills itself in. So section, we'll put it right there. One last one, and this is drawing number. Question mark of question mark, and that's just to give you a sense of what's going to go in there. And then our text height right here, we're going to set that to 0.125 like the other ones. And this one is going to be a verify, not a preset. And just set it down in there. So I'm done creating the attributes for this title block. If you need to change anything, let's say that your instructor hands you back your project and you forgot to put the drawn by field is all uppercase. If you double click on that, and this you would do in the block editor if you've already made it into a block, if you double click on that default, it takes you right back in here. So you can always change this if you forgot to make date, save date, which is a really common mistake. You can just double click in there and do this from the block editor. All right, so what I need to do is come in here and it says if you need to change any properties of an attribute, text height, whatever, it's easy to do before you make the block. So you can do that. Just pull up properties if you need to change the text height or anything like that. Now what we're going to do is define the block. So we're going to make the block. Now that we've done the attributes, making a block is the same as what you learned in your first class. So insert, I'm sorry, not insert, Ashley, create. We're going to create mechanical title block. We're going to choose this as our base point down here. We're going to select the objects. You can select everything all at once, or if you want to, when you do it this way, the window that pops up is going to prompt you to fill out the title block with these attributes, and it'll put it in what order, whatever order you selected them in. So if you want it to ask you in a specific order, you could click drawing name first, then scale, then date, then drawn by. You could work your way through here and select them in the order in which you'd like to be prompted. But regardless of how it prompts you, it's going to look like this when you're done, when it inserts that block. So we've got a couple of options here. I can retain, and what retain does is it actually takes your geometry, it just leaves it exactly the way you see it on the screen. Convert to block, it will actually make this into a block right now, and when that happens, when I say OK, now that it's converted into a block, the attributed window is going to pop up and it's going to prompt me to try to fill that block out. Or I can say delete. I like the delete option when I'm making blocks. I just like them to go away from the screen, and then I'm going to insert it to make sure it came out right. So I'm going to say OK. And it went away, but it's okay. By the way, when I made that selection, I did not select the border. Well, the reason we don't want you to select the border on this project is so that you can insert it into different page sizes. So this is kind of a standard size title block. You can use it on an A size sheet or a D size sheet, as long as you don't include that border with it. All right, so I'm going to insert that block just to test myself. This guy right here. Where do I want to insert it? Right here. And now it's asking me to edit the attribute. So this is where, set your caps on, and we'll say this is drawing 1 of 1. Notice the drawn by is still dashed. Do not type your name over this. If you type your name right now, it will delete the fact that there is a field right there in this insertion of the block. So leave that as dashes. We just need to go set ourselves as author, and I'll do that right after this. Date looks good. Don't type today's date. If you insert this title block later and it doesn't have today's date on it, either you forgot to make it save date or you just haven't saved that drawing. So don't change over here. If you type over those gray fields, you're going to delete the fact that they're fields and override what they say. So scale 1 of 1. Oh, 1 to 1. Drawing name, mechanical title block. Say OK, and I've just filled this out. This is dashed. I need to go ahead and set myself as the author of this drawing, and I'm going to do that by clicking the File pull down and going right here to Drawing Properties. Under the Summary tab, the second tab, I can set my name here. It doesn't look like anything changed. This didn't update, but if I regen my screen or if I save, there it is. So I've got today's date, a student, mechanical title block. It looks good. It's set up the way that it needs to be. One thing that I forgot to do, and I don't think the project asked me to do this, but I do want to be sure to set my PSLT scale, that's the paper space line type scale, to 0. So PSLT scale, set it to 0. We need to do that on all of our layouts when we start using paper space, so we've got it. I'm going to save my drawing right here, and I'm going to stop this video. In the next video, it'll be the last video that I do, I'm going to show you how you can create the architectural title block in the same drawing.